Why did I buy this? Magic Pencil, did you make me do this? No. Oh, okay, fair enough. I just, decided to randomly buy a calligraphy pen despite me being an illustrator. Roll the intro. What's up YouTube, I'm J.A.M.B.E.R, Battlebrawlerproductions. Today we're taking a look at the ITOYA Calligraphy Doubleheaden Acid-Free Ink CL 10 pen. I do not know how much of that is going to be in the title, but I picked this up surprisingly at Hobby Lobby, and this thing retails for an average of $2.99 to, believe it or not, as high as up to $7.99 depending on where you go. And I picked this up because I was really curious to see what this was. I'd never seen a pen like this, and in all honesty I thought maybe it would be a chisel nib version of one of my favorite pens, the C.H.A.M.B.E.R brush pen. Now, what's really nice about this brush pen is that it's a bullet pen, yes, but it has this kind of plastic material that the head's made out of, which allows it to curve and flex, giving you a lot of good line variation. So I was thinking, like, maybe that's what this does, but as you can see, it has two chiseled nibs. And I could say, no, it's not at all. It doesn't do that. Now, also, you guys are probably thinking, J-Rod, you do illustrations, not calligraphy, and you are correct. In fact, I'm actually gonna kind of reach behind the veil a little bit. I actually bought two of these. I think it's partly because I kind of forgot I had one, but also so I could kind of test this out and get a little better at calligraphy, you know, just kind of practice a little bit so I don't make a total fool of myself. And we all know I can make a fool out of myself very easily. I mean, you just need to watch any of my past videos. Just don't go too far back to the high school years. We don't talk about those videos. But either way, I thought this would just be a really fun kind of different pen to try out. I never heard of this brand, never heard of anything like this until I picked this up. So let's go ahead and test it out in our Batman sketchbook. Now, I did mention how this calligraphy pen has two heads. The first head here is actually really long and thin. Pretty interesting. I thought it would be flexible, but it's not. And then one thing I do like about this pen is that both caps are universal. And guess what? They attach like this. I love it. I hate when pens don't do this. It's just a waste. Now, this one is the short, thick one. So there you go, your little chiseled nib. And yeah, it also has a little clip right here. So let's go ahead and test it out. We're going to start with the long, small one. It's pretty much going to be like your normal chiseled nib, which I've never been a huge fan of, but I was hoping this would be flexible so I could kind of have some good line variations with it. Unfortunately, it's not like I mentioned before, but it's a decent nib. It's not the worst I've ever used. I think the worst I've used is honestly the micron ones. I just never like those things. Anyway, and we're going to test the thick one out real quick. You can see got some edging a few times. I did notice that was a common theme with chisel nibs, is you do get that kind of ugly edging, which I don't like. So I don't know if that's just my inexperience with using chisel nibs, or if it's just this is a bad chisel nib. Again, I'm probably not the best person to test this. But again, the reason I picked this up was because I thought it would be flexible and you could get some really good line variations outside having twist this like that. So, you know, there's an example of good line variation. Is again comparing it to the C.H.A.M.B.E.R brush pen. You could see that depending on how much pressure I put on it, I can get a variety of lines without having to rotate my hand. Now, compare it to just a normal micron. This is a 0.8, and you can see that there's going to be no line variations at all. It's going to be that 0.8 pretty much forever. I mean, if you really force it, you could probably get a slightly thicker line, or you can just kind of lighten it down to get like a gray, kind of like what I did right here. Either way, it's pretty much going to be that 0.8. This pen, interestingly, having two heads, you get two sizes. Okay, cool. But again, I would have liked to see these be flexible. I think that would have really helped with its versatility. Something that would be really fun to do is I actually brought out a book, and we're going to try and actually go in and do some calligraphy. So see how disastrous that's going to be. So I brought out this little calligraphy book. I found this little R, and I thought we would try and make it. So let's bring this out. I'm going to use the thicker nib, and I think what I'm going to do is go in, and we're going to go down, out again, up, loop-de-loop, and we're going to... Now keep in mind, guys, I am not a calligraphy guy. I don't... Oh, I messed this up. I'm not a calligraphy guy. I can say that with all the confidence of the world. I am not someone who does calligraphy. We got some line variation in there. Where do we take it from here? Because normally we do an illustration, and I actually do have an illustration planned. I did it on some smaller Bristol board, as you can see, and I really just kind of came up with a character that I think would actually take advantage of this pen. It has much more block portions, and I would like to play off of that in the artwork. Yeah, let's jump into that super time lapse. Inking this piece was pretty interesting because I designed this piece around this pen to take advantage of everything. And I have to say that I noticed that the ink took a while to dry, so that led to this messy effect that you're about to see, but it is interesting to note that it doesn't dry quickly. On top of that, there's not a lot of good line variation, and I found myself really relying on that long thin nib opposed to the thicker one because I just found that one to be more reliable opposed to the other. On top of that, the background's just more loose, more simple. Again, this was meant to be a very simple illustration, but after I noticed a lot of splotching and a lot of bleeding with the actual ink lines because it didn't dry and my hand went over it, I ended up just putting a lot of the ink on my fingers to create the splatter effect, to create some textures and grays, which I ended up really liking, and you can actually see my thumbprints and fingerprints in there, which is pretty funny. This was an interesting piece that I didn't expect to go as good in some ways, but also expect to be as bad in others. So yeah, it was just kind of a quick, less than 30-minute inking job, but I'm happy with what I got. And we're done, guys. I like this piece. It's very different from what we normally do. It's a little looser, and I had more fun adding some textures in with my finger. Very different from what we normally do here. And if you like this piece, it is available on my ArtStage account for a $1 digital download. First link in the description down below. Really does help the channel out. Go ahead and grab an awesome desktop background. Now, one thing I will say is that this is a new character. I'm still working on his design, but I really wanted to lean into the blocky nature that this pen provided, and I ended up coming with this character. I named him Bronze because I imagine he's colored bronze, and on top of that, he's the bronze to someone's brain. Does he have a partner? Stay tuned to find out. What's very interesting about this piece is that only using this pen, I really had to take advantage of every aspect of it. So I used both nibs and of course my finger. And yeah, no, I washed my fingers. I even used a ink remover and it did not work. So yeah, you're going to be able to tell what videos I film after this one for quite a while because this ink is not coming off. Now let's talk about the pen. First off, I designed this character to really take advantage of the properties of this pen. I had to really use it to its fullest considering I'm only doing this illustration with this pen. So I designed a more blocky character. I did kind of a simple background. Had fun doing the textures. So again, I took advantage of what this pen offers. It doesn't offer much. What I was talking about earlier, I feel like this pen lacks a flexibility to it that you need with calligraphy or basic illustration. Similar to how I compared it to the Tombow pen, bare minimum at least one of these nibs should be flexible. That way you get a lot more line variation because this piece doesn't have a lot of that. So that lack of flexibility and variety can hurt your illustration. And I know, even though I'm not a calligraphy expert, I do have friends that do calligraphy, and they talk about how a flexible nib really does help to get that line variation and help make their calligraphy look better. But overall, I do think that the material is just cheap and this is overpriced. For example, if you're picking this up for $2.99 or $1.99, I don't think it's that bad, but if you're paying like $7.99, that's ridiculous because then felt tips on these things are horrible. I've used a ton of felt tip pens and not one had fallen apart as quick as this one did, to the point where I actually had to switch out pens. This was the one that I started out the illustration with, and I switched to this one because the felt tips got too destroyed on this. Like, I do not know why they're so cheap. So overall, I'm actually going to rate this a 2 on my scale of 1 to 10. The reason I'm giving it a 2 is that if you are a traveling calligrapher, bad joking English aside, if you do actually do calligraphy traveling, like maybe you're at home but you also go to school and you have a day job, and on your break or in between classes you just want to do a little bit of test calligraphy, this isn't bad, especially if you get it for like $1.99 to $2.99. I don't think it's bad, but if you are a professional, I would stay away from this. And if you are working at home with actual good equipment and you don't have to worry about traveling or don't have to worry about keeping everything ready to pack and go, stay away from this. It is not that good at all. The piece came out fun. It was pretty interesting, and my finger is completely soaked in ink, and I did scrub for 30 minutes, so this is actually like some decent ink, though it did take a while dry. And that's my opinion on the Calligraphy Dual Head pen. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section down below. Do you absolutely love this and this is the best calligraphy pen you've ever used, or do you agree with me and think that it's absolute trash? Either way, let me know what you guys think in that comment section down below. Subscribe to the channel for more art and animation based content. And remember, I'm J.A.M.B.E.R of BATTLEBRAWLERproductions. I draw power in my own soul.